Good morning and welcome to the Return Homestead. My name is Mike and my wife Marty and I homestead 50 acres in southeastern Kentucky. It's been almost a month since we did a garden tour and quite a lot has changed, so we wanted to do a quick walk through the garden, show you what's growing well, what we're having difficulties with, and we'll also talk about what we're going to harvest today. We've got quite a bit of produce that's coming in, so we got to get busy. As you can see, the storm clouds are already growing in the background. It's already gray out here this morning. So we got to get busy, get everything pulled in off of the plants, get it inside where it can be processed before the rain starts. Starting here on the little patio, we've got a tomato plant that got stuck in with some carrots. It's doing extremely well. We've got some tomatoes on that. Got some more carrots and another small tomato here.
Curly kale.
Curly kale growing in there. That stuff's delicious.
This is red celery.
Nice. And then our squash plant. This is that gigantic squash we've been trying to grow. Marty's checking it, and this is what she is looking for right here.
Squash bug eggs.
Those are the squash bugs coming on, so we want to make sure we take care of those guys. If the eggs don't hatch, we don't have the squash bug problem.
That's why they call them squash bugs.
That's why the Return Homestead calls them squash bugs anyway.
Here's more.
Oh, you got more, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So hopefully we can keep those squash bugs under control.
And I've got marigold growing in the middle of it.
Did you notice the tomatillo?
No. Do we have them on there?
Yeah, you've got one growing here.
More squash bugs. They really like this plant. Maybe it's our sacrifice plant.
Our sacrificial plant to the squash bugs. We've got, is this broccoli growing in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, the broccoli's looking big. You can eat these leaves. You want to wilt them with some bacon grease or some other grease. Take some of the stiffness out of them, but they are delicious, just like the broccoli. Sunflowers are starting to come up in this bed.
They are shading the brassicas, by the way.
Yes, the shade that the sunflowers provide seems to be benefiting. As you can see, this kale, all of that is brand new growth. Marty just cut that back to almost nothing about a week and a half ago. You can see these gigantic leaves coming off of it already. We've got some cabbages down in here, not making any decent sized heads yet, but here's one that's starting to fold up in the middle. Fortunately, our neighbor has been bringing us over plenty of cabbages in exchange for eggs, so we've got lots of sauerkraut growing right now. Looks like this broccoli is about spent. Did we at least harvest a head off of this one?
Yeah, we did.
So we did harvest one head off of this. Doesn't look like we're going to get anything more off of it. We'll probably let that go to seed. Always a good idea to save your seeds. Got some garlic or onion scapes that are shooting up all over the place. So Marty plans to freeze dry the onions, so we're not going to worry about popping those scapes off of there. You see we've got some bulbing going on, so the onions are starting to bulb out real nice. Probably use a little bit of dry weather for them to really get that finished off for us. You'll notice we did cut the grass in the garden the other day. We got some weeding done. We did not get it all done. The rain has been keeping us out of the garden and preventing us from getting this weed infestation under control. So you can see things like this goldenrod that are going nuts in here. Whenever I'm not sure, I always let Marty decide to pull it out. So we can pull this thing out. We just want to find the base of the plant. Get a good firm grip. Pull this out, hopefully without disturbing too many of the other plants around it. We got some onions that are growing close by. Just want to cover those onions up. Looks like that little onion didn't quite make a bulb. It's already lost the top of the plant. So with just pulling one weed, you can make a big difference. Tomatoes have been doing exceptionally well. You can see we've got a lot of fruit on the vine right now. We've had some issues with the storms, so you're starting to break some of the outer branches off. So we will spend some time today tying up tomato branches, taking off more of these lower limbs. We've been seeing reports from other homesteaders and farmers in this area that they're seeing blight come up on their tomatoes already. One of the best ways to avoid that is to keep the lower branches cut back. But we do have a lot of tomatoes growing right now. Some of these are probably Cherokee purples or the terracottas. Absolutely massive tomatoes. The shape of that one makes me think it's probably a ox heart. And the sweet potatoes have been swallowed up by these weeds. Now they are still down in there. They're not getting enough light right now, so we're going to have to spend some time probably today, hopefully before the storm hits. We need to pull down some of this dock that's in here. We've got some taller grasses. There's still a little bit of the goldenrod popping through. And there's plenty of clover in there. I'm not too worried about the clover. And we've got creeping Charlie that's really kind of choking these things out right now. It is an invasive plant. It does provide good ground cover, but it is choking out our sweet potatoes right now. Luckily, it comes up in great big chunks, so it'll be easy to clean out of there. The apple tree's looking a little spotted. We probably need to do another treatment. That is possibly the apple cedar rust starting on this, but it's spotting in the middle of the leaf. So I'll do a little research and see if we can find out if that may be something else. But it's almost certainly going to be either the apple cedar rust, which is a virus, or it's fungal. The treatment will be the same. We have a copper-based fungicide that we like to spray on the apples. It just needs another treatment. But in order to get out here and spray, we need some good weather, or at least some non-rainy weather. Got a squash in a bucket up here by the chickens. It's doing well. Just checking the underside of these leaves. Looks like the beetles have been active in this one. They've eaten the center out of this leaf. I don't see any beetles actively feeding at the moment. That's the spring chickens. They're doing well. It's a little muddy in their run right now. They don't seem to mind much. They've got plenty of area outside of the rain to get into, so it is dry up under there. Maybe another 2 weeks at most, and we'll blend them with the rest of the flock. Fig tree is making a nice comeback. We thought the goats had completely destroyed this, but it's got some really good growth on it in the last month. So it looks like it may survive. We do have it really too close to the chicken coop. We'll make a decision in the fall about whether or not we move it. Pears are still growing on the pear tree. There's only a few of them, but we do have some fruit to show this year. We really weren't expecting any from this plant this year, so that's exciting. Blackberries are really doing nicely. Got a little problem with the beetles on the blackberries right now, but it's easy enough to take care of. Just give them a good pluck. It usually kills them off. Got some fruit coming on, starting to turn red. Should see some blackberries on this very shortly. I'll come back through here in a bit and weave these back through the fencing. Look how thick and lush this one is. We do have fruit on it. We're not really sure at this point how this raspberry got into our blueberry swale, but we do have a raspberry growing here. Went ahead and put a fence around it, not just to support the berry, but also to keep it back out of the blueberries. Raspberries are highly invasive. They will take over anything, any bed you put them in. So we want to try to keep it contained while we can. Haven't had a massive harvest of blueberries this year, but we have had one or two coming in. Here's a nice fat one on the plant now. Oh, that's super sweet. There's another one we'll have to save for Marty for later. Potatoes have about grown as big as they're going to get. They're starting to fall over. We do have some that are starting to yellow and brown on the edges here. So we'll be harvesting potatoes probably sometime in the next week or so. Wasn't able to get in and hill the potatoes up the way I had intended to because I planted them too tightly. But I don't see anything poking out of the ground. I see one right here. But the reason you want to hill your potatoes is to keep the potatoes themselves from ever getting exposed to the sun. If they do, they'll turn green, and you really should not eat them at that point. Green potatoes are toxic. And the green beans have really just taken over the center of the garden here. The plants are massive, the beans are coming in. Marty's been getting about 2 quarts a day. She just picked half a row and already had to empty her basket, so I'm thinking we're gonna get 6 to 8 quarts of green beans today. The elderberry looks like it's at the end of its bloom and getting ready to start setting berries. So we'll be making syrup with this stuff very soon. I'm gonna be careful with the elderberries. They are toxic. You do need to cook them first. So you gotta make sure you process them correctly, but they are an excellent immune support for your winter time during cold and flu season. See Marty's down here picking away on the green beans. Need to get busy helping her, but let's take a look at these peppers first. I'm guessing that's an Advarsky back in here right behind you?
Is it long and?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's an Advarsky.
They'll turn red.
Those will turn red before we pick them.
Roasting potato, or roasting pepper.
Good roasting pepper, right?
Yeah. And sweet.
Looks like a really nice banana pepper there.
Corbachis might be ready too.
So tell me about the Corbaci peppers.
Corbachis are a sweet pepper. It's supposed to be prolific. By the look of our plants, it is. You pick them yellow and green. What is it? They're Italian, aren't they?
Turkish?
Turkish.
Turkish.
That's it. It's an heirloom.
So it's a Turkish heirloom pepper.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying it for the first time this year. So far, the ones we've tried, the flavor is phenomenal. And the productivity from the plant is just unbelievable. There's so many peppers here, it's actually pulling the plant over.
Yeah, we got to pick those today.
So we need to get these picked today. Probably need to get some trellis up on the peppers. We did not trellis them yet, but the Corbachis are absolutely loaded. And we've got some jalapenos growing back in here. Our Baxter Bush tomatoes aren't producing any tomatoes yet, but they are beautiful looking plants. Doing very well here at the end of this row. And the mulberry is putting on lots of new growth. So hopefully we'll get some fruit off of this one next year. And finally the corn. Corn is starting to tassel already.
Is it?
Yeah. So we've already got tassels on the corn.
80 days then.
The rain prevented us from getting in here and doing the last tilling that I wanted to do. But we've had this weed come up in here. It's called green carpet weed, and it's used often as a ground cover for beds. It's done a pretty good job of keeping most of the other weeds down. It is definitely holding in moisture, which is great for the corn. So we're not going to try to rip it out of there. I'm not going to till this like I had planned to. I did run the mower down one row. By the time I got to the other end, the mower was completely clogged with wet grass and weeds. So it's a good thick bed of cover that's holding moisture in for the corn, so I'm not upset about it all being there. The goldenrod obviously needs to come out. That's not doing anything useful in there. As you can see, we've got lots of good pollen tasseling off of the top of the corn already. Not seeing any ears popping up yet. Lots of goldenrod I need to get in there and pull out. And we planted this zucchino squash, Zucchino replicante. We put it right up against the porch this year. There's fencing around the porch. And it provides a really good trellising system. And this stuff is already 6 feet tall, continuing to get taller. And it is already producing squash. You can see the size of these flowers on this thing. These long, skinny squash that come off of it, those will get 2 feet or more. Marty's telling me this is resistant to squash bugs and vine borers. It's one of the reasons why we started growing it. And we just really love this squash. Excellent flavor. It goes with just about anything you put it with. Fry it up in a skillet with just a little bacon grease. Tastes just like potatoes. It's just like having home fries in the morning. We've got quite a bit of harvesting we need to get done today. I'm going to put the camera down and get busy helping Marty pick some green beans. So we're going to leave you down at the end of the row and let you see that process. Picking green beans is a little bit like a treasure hunt. The beans themselves are green, the plants are green, the leaves are all the same color green. You kind of have to get in here and push around. Let your eyeballs get used to what the green bean looks like. Move the leaves around. You'll find a lot more green beans on there than what you expect to see. There's definitely some kind of an insect there we don't want on our beans. We do like to pick the green beans a little bit young. We don't like them when they get big and stringy. See, this one's already starting to get a little bit too fat for us. But even when they're big and stringy, they do make good powders. Just freeze dry them. Grind them up into a nice powder that can be used in soups and stews. Or just sprinkle some of the powder in your eggs in the morning. Good way to get a serving of vegetables at breakfast time. Oftentimes as a homesteader, you are at the mercy of the weather. There's just some things you're not going to get out here and do in a thunderstorm, like pick green beans. So we're actually a day behind on this. Marty's been trying to get this every single day and wasn't able to yesterday because of the storms. So today we've got double duty. There's extra beans on here. Try to find and pick off everything that is just starting to plump up. We like to get them young. Oftentimes you don't see the beans, but you can feel them tap on your hand as you move your hand through the leaves. That'll tell you where to look for the ones you want to harvest. So give everything a good shuffle. It's also a great way to pollinate. So any of these flowers up top that haven't pollinated yet, we can shake the plant a little bit, help the bees out with that pollination. Folks, that's just one day's harvest off of really 3 rows of beans because of the way we planted them. But that's a lot of food. We had a comment on one of our videos the other day. She was questioning the idea of low-cost tomato trellis and wondering why we were calling it low cost when we were spending way more than $100 on fencing, and then the post driver is nutrition it contains. We know how to process and store this for the winter, and we will not have to go to the store to buy any green beans, either canned or even out of the produce section. We're going to have plenty. And that's really what we want to encourage everyone else to do. Get used to this kind of a harvest. Get used to calling this food. Just because it comes in a tin can and you bought it at the grocery store doesn't make it food. This is what it's supposed to look like. It should be dirty. It should be a little imperfect. This is what you should be eating. And we want to encourage everyone to return to the land, specifically for the purpose of being able to grow food. Return to the labor, because you're not going to get a harvest like this without quite a bit of work. And then return to life. You'll eat better, feel better, you'll live longer. Despite the super wet conditions, I've got to get in here and do something about this corn. If I don't get this goldenrod out of here, it will choke the corn out. So I'm going to wade through the mud and get some of this stuff cut back. We're going to try to leave most of the ground cover. We've got that green carpet weed growing in there. We've got quite a bit of clover. There's some other low growing plants that we're going to leave in there. We like to keep the soil covered, and life improves the conditions for life. So there's no reason not to leave those other plants in there. But we do want to get the goldenrod and other tall weeds out of here, and then I'm going to get some fertilizer on. When your corn starts tasseling, that's when you want to throw on some extra fertilizer. We're going to be using some chicken manure that I've been keeping off to the side for this purpose. We're just going to get that spread out on the rows. First, let's take care of some of these weeds. And just like that, the corn is done. We've got it all weeded, we've got it side dressed, and it's good to go. So we got the corn all cleaned out. All the big goldenrod and other weeds have been pulled up. But we just think of this stuff typically as just weeds. It's just mulch to throw on the ground. Don't forget, this is also food. It makes an excellent chicken salad. So we've got the corn side dressed now with that chicken manure. It's going to add plenty of good nitrogen for the corn. Allow it to grow big and strong, give us some good kernels on the ears. Make sure we get plenty of nitrogen in there for the corn. While I've been playing with corn, Marty's been up here tending to the tomatoes. They need to be tied up. We've got some broken branches that need to be cut off, so I'm going to jump in here and help her out with that project. If you've never seen cat-faced tomatoes, this is what they look like. So this is multiple blossoms all shoved together. And this is what you end up with. Not a very useful tomato. The plant wastes a lot of energy producing these, so it's a good idea to pull the blossoms off when you find them. We miss these two, and as you can see, the plants waste a lot of time on them. And just like that, we're all finished with the tomatoes. Well, I say just like that. It was about 3 hours worth of working on the tomatoes. We did pull in a pretty good harvest today. This is a pretty small harvest, really, for summertime in the garden. Homesteading life is definitely a lot of work, but it is worth it when you get to eat this food. We hope you enjoyed working with us in the garden today. Please do subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button while you're in there. And we'll see you on the next one.